The only difference I can tell on the box is that it does say SC2 Business on the business one, and it says SC2 Beige for the beige one. So I've never opened this box before for the SC2 Business. I'm going to open it up and we'll check it out here. We'll see whether the cameras are identical, we'll look at the API, or whether they're actually different, and if it's worth the price difference. Packaging is almost identical to the SC2. Color is different. So the SC does come in different colors. The SC2 Business only comes in this gray. Weight feels identical. The markings, everything looks completely identical. Power button lights look identical. It does boot up in default with room view for the SC2 Business. And so we'll take a look at that and take some test pictures, let you know how it's different and if it is the same, and whether the SC2 can handle the same thing. So I'm first going to upgrade the firmware, or take a look and see whether the firmware needs to be upgraded with the SC2B before we get started on testing. Difference is that I was just looking at the SC2 Business, looking for the USB cable, and I noticed that the case is actually quite different. So this is the case for the SC2B. It does have maybe belt holster or some type of utility attachment here, and also this other attachment might be good if you're depending on how you're using it for your business. So this purposes, this might be a much better case. It is worth some of the price difference between the models, and we'll take a look at some of the technical differences after I charge this thing up and upgrade the firmware. Firmware is 6.01 and the newest version is 6.01. So this is actually a different firmware version from the SC2. The SC2 is on 1.31. So it does seem like the SC2 Business and the SC2 are on different firmware branches. So since I don't need to upgrade the firmware, I'm going to continue on with the testing. Battery's at 100%, so let's test out this room view mode. I'm going to take some test shots with the RICOH SC2 Business. One of the big features is that it has the room mode, which is a default mode for the camera. So it appears to be an HDR type of shot. I'm going to purposely take it in this type of difficult space indoor where there's 3 windows. I'm going to open this back window, and I'll put the camera right in the center. So it's going to be forced to take both shadow and light. This would be a pretty difficult shot for a camera. The SC2 does have HDR mode. So we're comparing against the normal HDR mode of the SC2 and the SC2 for Business. I'll also put these pictures up on the website so you can actually get the original photographs, and we can then compare what the differences is with the default settings. So it's ease of use. So you can see that's a pretty difficult shot here if you look at the windows. And I'm going to open this window here to make it even more difficult. So we have light coming in from 3 areas. It's also morning, so the sun is out. And let's see how the camera performs. I have the camera in room mode, and it's in timer delay or shutter delay. It's not in time shift mode right now. Rotating arrows because the camera does take multiple shots at different exposure levels and automatically should combine it into the inside the camera into a single JPEG image. So the output should not be HDR. It's HDR. It's made from an HDR technique, but the actual file output is JPEG. So you shouldn't see any difference between a normal JPEG that you would get from a single shot and from the room mode, which is a form of HDR. Looks quite good. Looks quite good. This is the default setting, right? So you don't have to, your staff doesn't have to adjust anything on it. If you have it in a business workflow, it's a default setting to take it. And for the SC2, I've used the official RICOH Theta mobile app, and I've set the option settings to HDR rendering. This is not the default setting of the camera, and from the LED panel on the camera, you can't tell whether it's an HDR. You can use a mobile app to set the filter and also save HDR as the default setting in My Settings. So if you're programming your own mobile app for the HDR for the SC2, you do need to take an additional step to save the HDR filter into My Settings. If you don't do that, and the camera, your staff uses the camera next time, it won't be in HDR, but I'll take it with the HDR on. And you can also use this program with the program. Connected the SC2, not the SC2 Business, to my Windows computer with a USB cable, and I've transferred the two files that we took in the tough shot, right? So there's light coming in from 3 separate windows. It's difficult for the camera to compensate, and it looks fantastic actually. Obviously there's some glare here. We could make it even better, but wow, I mean, you can just compare it to the video, and you can see that the HDR compensation is doing quite a nice job. Quite nice for the SC2. Obviously you can do some additional adjustments. This was the default settings just to show you the light, and both cameras look quite nice for this type of difficult shot where you have light streaming in through 3 windows. It's probably a common shot for real estate or used car sales, right? Where you want to take the interior of a space, but there's some light areas in it. The big features of the SC2 Business is the time shift. And the SC2 can't do time shift shooting. We have a couple of other videos on time shift shooting if you're not familiar with what it is. But it basically allows you to eliminate the photographer from the shot when you press the shutter button. So you can stay close to your camera, which is also safer. So I'm first going to connect the SC2 Business to the mobile phone. It's my first time connecting it, so let's see what happens here. It's Android, so sometimes it does get stuck. I'm just going to show you in case this happens to you, so I'm not going to edit the video out. So you saw that the camera's lying down the side. So you saw that the first time I tried to connect, I did have the spinning circle. And that does occur from time to time on my Google Pixel 2. I don't have mobile data disabled. So if I probably disabled it, I might not have that problem, but it does occur from time to time. So I left it in just to show you that little tip of killing the app and restarting it. Okay, so I'm going into the settings, and well, it's right here, time shift shooting for the SC2 Business. I'll enable it. I have a time shift shooting enabled on the SC2 for Business. I don't have my mobile phone. It's not connected. In fact, I do have the Wi-Fi turned off at the moment on the camera. Probably can't see the LED Show a little 1-2 on the screen for time shift mode. So let's see what happens here. It takes the first shot. It should be in the picture. It should automatically take the second shot. So theoretically, it should have taken 2 HDR shots, composite HDRs. Up the SC2 business. The last shot I took was a time shift shot. You can't see it. There's no indication that it's a special type of shot. There's only one file, although I did take 2 pictures. The camera processes 2 files into a single file. I'm going to move it over to my computer so we can view it. Start up the Theta app on the desktop. And I'll drop it on to view it. So if you remember, I was in the picture, but the thing does quite a good job at eliminating me from the shot. So I'm no longer in the shot here. Reasonable job of also eliminating my tripod. So if this was a normal real estate, you'd prep the room. It wouldn't be as messy as my office, but you could have your staff just go out there and take the shot, right? Pretty good. My initial impressions comparing the SC2 for business versus the SC2 is that they're both great cameras. They take great shots, and they can even take some great shots in HDR. They both can do the same thing. The SC2 does have time shift mode, which is a great workflow optimization for your staff. I believe that alone would be worth the price difference between the SC2 for business and the SC2. Additionally, the SC2 for business does have room view, which appears to be close to HDR composite by default. And there's an LED on the front panel, so your staff can verify that it's in HDR mode. Or room mode. If they're using the SC2 and they don't have the mobile app, there's actually no way that I can tell from the LED panel that it's taking a HDR shot. You do have these swirling arrows, which does indicate that the camera is synchronizing, and it does take more time. So if they don't have the swirling arrows with the SC2, it's likely that it's not in HDR mode. But it's not as clear as with the SC2 for business, where you have this nice LED. But remember that when your staff does take the time shift, or if they're taking a shot, if they're using the mobile phone, they may have to hide, and they're not using time shift. They may have to hide behind a tree. If you're indoor, they may have to hide behind a pillar in another room. If the surface is unstable, the camera and the tripod often does fall down, especially if there's wind or uneven surface, right? If someone's walking, I think the most likely culprit is probably wind, but the thing can tip over. If you're taking a time shift shot, you can be very close to the camera and grab the camera before it tips over and cracks the lens. So lens cracking is a pretty common problem, especially for outdoor shots or shots maybe where there's other people around. They may hit the tripod, or a football, if it's a sports shot, might hit the tripod, things like that. So the time shift, in addition to the workflow maybe being faster and more convenient, they don't have to use a mobile phone, it's also safer for the camera. So your equipment may last longer or be less likely damaged in a high throughput area because your staff they'll see if the tripod's sliding over, they can just grab it. So it's worth a shot. It's not that much more expensive. The time shift is great. That probably is worth the price difference. The case is better, and you might use it. I actually like that case better. The HDR, you can probably get the same level of quality image with the SC2. However, it's less convenient and the staff may not know if they're in HDR mode or not. I will put the pictures up online so you can see for yourself the differences between the SC2 for business and the SC2. Thanks.